Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
The seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
Hello, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm living the dream. Thank you for asking.
You just had a wonderful Thanksgiving, I assume.
Oh, God, I'm stuffed. I feel like the stuffing just isn't leaving my body. It's just spreading into the extremities.
I've never been a stuffing guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like you're having the wrong stuffing. Here's the question. Have you, now in Maryland, do they call it dressing or do they call it stuffing?
Oh, no, it's definitely stuffing.
Okay, good. I thought, see, this is where when you pretend that you're a Southerner, that's just not true. If you're calling it stuffing, you're closer to New England.
Maybe it was stuffing in my fancy, Maryland family, and maybe in the Eastern Shore family, it was dressing.
Yeah. Now, would you have Thanksgiving at the Shore house or in the Standard house, the primary residence?
The Hamptons estate, of course.
It was super, past Thanksgiving now, I'm super plugged into Christmas. I've got the Christmas music going. I've got the tree up. I've got stockings hung with care. And I have kids' gifts secreted all around the house.
It's been Christmas in Bogota for feels like months. There's just Christmas trees everywhere, Christmas music, because they don't have Thanksgiving, so there's no buffer.
Yeah, no, I've got buddies in Canada and England, and they've been posting Christmas stuff for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. No, we got to check that Mariah Carey chart, because I think that's actually the official, when either one for Christmas is you starts trending. That's like when people are like, okay, let's do this.
I personally always look at what new Christmas albums are coming up each year.
Are you 75?
No, I just really like Christmas music, and I was very disappointed by this year's showings. Very disappointed.
It's like Bad Bunny, Dua Lipa, who's putting out Christmas albums?
Almost nobody. It's that it's that a cappella group everybody listens to, Pentatonic name.
Everybody doesn't listen to that, Kiernan. Just let you in.
Because this is Christmas related today, because we are going to each be recommending 3 great books to give any traveler, or I would say any culturally interested person in your life. And they're not going to be, this is the thing that I think is kind of neat. Everybody goes for the hardcovers, the new list. You and I are diving deep into what we think are the actual best books.
Yeah, I'm excited. It was fun to put this list together. There are so many books that I could have included because, as you know, I'm a big reader.
You love carrying around books. I do know that. He's got one arm that has muscles like you wouldn't believe. It's because he carries these great tomes around, and not in a bag. Don't think it's in a bag. They are right out there for people to see. It's like a schoolboy. I'm surprised you don't have one of those belts that goes around like 3 books so you could carry them a little easier. He's leaning off screen.
It actually is in a bag, because I had told you that I got myself a lovely bag made in the Boston metro area by a guy named Frank Clegg, who's been making messenger bags since 1970. They manufactured in the Boston area. I think it should be in your next update. They do a factory tour.
I'm in for a factory tour. You won me over a factory tour. All right, I'm actually. Do you know I have my last stop is a factory tour? I'm excited to say. But listen, we've jumped right in. We've got. Let's hit it quickly. I really want to get to the big stuff, but we've got some news. But we have to start with the Judy alert, which is I know you've been very nervous lately about leaving ever since the Atlanta disaster. Couldn't get to Ireland. You're sort of nesting there. I'm picking up that you're in Bogota. Am I right?
I'm in Bogota, but on December the 8th, I fly to Madrid to begin my basically 3 months in Europe. So I'm excited about that.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. Meeting up with friend of the pod, Chase Whiteside,
acquaintance of the pod.
And, so it's going to be a really fun trip. I'm in the process of planning it. Right now, we've figured out like the big Christmas Eve plan, the New Year's Eve plan, now kind of building the itinerary around these these places that I've never been, starting with Seville, which will be interesting. And
you got to read that book. You may remember a very early, very bad audio episode called. It was called of an out of office where I
sleeping in.
It's called Room with a Pew, and it's about sleeping in monasteries and nunneries.
I have to say,
all around Spain.
215 episodes. That's the worst audio episode by far. I think that
Oh no, there's one that rivals it, which I hate because it was a great interview, which was about refurbishing and opening up as a tourist attraction the control room for the moon landing. That one was a great episode, but early on we just didn't know how to record. I was letting people call in, and that's just horrible audio.
It's like the Rush Limbaugh
you
show.
Might be right. That Room with a Pew might be the worst, because not only was it called in, it was two people called in. It was really, really bad. Anyway, so are you staying in Europe for that whole duration?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Europe until basically the beginning of February.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so going to see a lot of sites, have a lot of episodes on small Spanish towns, do an episode finally on Florence, which I'm super excited about.
This is going to be great for your Spanish language skills, because you have such, you're so fluid in Spanish, but it's really with a South American accent. And I feel like now you're going to get the pure Spanish.
Yeah. Well, whenever I'm in Madrid, I mostly just hang out with Colombians. So it's hard to.
I mean, it is primarily. I know a lot of people think you don't know Spanish. It was just so unfair that they think
so
that. And
unfair.
It's really, I think it's really down to the accent.
I can read some Spanish. Anyway,
you can now that you have those specs. I've noticed you've got some new specs going there.
Thank you.
Now, are these pure fashion or are these functional?
No, these are functional, but these are like nice drugstore fake glasses. Readers.
They're very nice. Yeah, they're what do they call what do they call those old person glasses? Well, you've got them now.
They're readers. They're called readers.
Readers. That's right. Yeah. Readers. Well, listen, you're going to need readers for this piece of news and for the books we're going to recommend. But before we get to the books, there's national park news. I got to bring national park news as an enthusiast here to the pod. And big news is that the federal government is raising the amount that foreign tourists have to pay to enter our national parks. $100, which is 2 or 3 times more expensive than Americans will pay per person to visit the parks. And it's controversial. On one side, it's positive that we'll be getting revenue, and I am actually all for charging foreign tourists higher fees to get into American national parks. I think that that's a fine thing to do. This just seems like a pretty high charge when tourism is already really down.
Yeah, I never complain when as a U.S. citizen I have to pay more to enter a museum or a national park when I'm traveling,
or to use a bathroom.
Yeah, but usually it's not 3 times as much.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot, and it prompted me to look up what we're on trend to lose in tourism this year, and on a yearly basis, we are down about 23%. In foreign tourism. And I think that this will make that go even lower. Maybe we could hit a new record.
Well, I think if folks pick up your Boston book, they're going to have a lot of other ideas.
A lot of very manageable,
inexpensive,
nearly free things in there. That's called Secret Boston.
Yeah.
Great stocking stuffer by Kiernan P. Schmidt.
So this might be bad for the Pacific Northwest, but could be great for New England. So
I completely agree. We only have one national park in New England, which is Acadia. That's the only national park in all of New England.
And does that make the list? Because I know there was only like 10 or 15.
Oh, interesting. I don't know that.
Ones.
Very good. I'll have to do a recalculating.
Yeah.
But Ryan, one thing we don't need to recalculate is our recommendations on 3 books each that we're going to give from our own experience that we think are just right for the traveler in your life. So I think it's time to take off.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
All right, Ryan. Well, we're taking off. There's nothing. I mean, I actually like to watch movies when I'm on airplanes, but a lot of people I know, of course, yourself, especially with those sharp readers you've got there, love to pull out a thick tome. And oh, it's so wonderful to show off a big academic book on an airplane because everybody's looking at what you're all doing. And so instead of watching the Super Mario Brothers movie, Ryan, I want to know I think we're going to go you, then me, then you, then me to recommend a book that may not be the freshest, newest book, but is just right for an avid traveler.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was sort of inspired by your list. I had imagined that you were going to go a little more kind of travel
Yeah,
genre.
I know, because you were kind of a jerk when we were getting ready, and you were like, "Duh, Kieran, your books are going to be the Traveler's Guide to How to Travel." Like, when did that become my reputation? I've got a degree in English. I appreciate literature.
No, I appreciate that. And when I saw your list, I was like, wow, Kieran's bringing his Harvard undergrad cred
All
to
right,
this.
we don't have to drop the H bomb. We don't want everybody to get jealous here.
But yeah, I think we've each come up with 3 books that are not themselves travel books, but are all about people who traveled and travels as part of life.
All right, so who do we have first? Travel as part of life.
Okay, so this is a book that I read about 10 years ago when it first came out, and I still think about it quite a bit. And that is Lafayette in the Somewhat United States by the great Sarah Vowell.
Love Sarah Vowell.
And what she does that's really fun is she weaves in, Lafayette, the French general who helped us win the Revolutionary War.
Everybody know, but it used to be obscure. Hamilton, now everybody knows who Lafayette is.
So we weave in Lafayette's life and his travels around the U.S. with her going to those places as a journalist and as a tourist. And so you get everything from, a funny story about a hotel that she's staying in to how Lafayette, influenced this specific part of America. So it's a really, really fun read. And I want to steal this format one day for my great Bolivar travel
I was
book.
just about to say, I think that this is your Bolivar book ready to be written. I'm such a big fan of themed road trips. I have a themed road trip I haven't pulled off yet, but I kind of see it as a retirement project to hit all the Cold War nuclear sites that you can still visit in the United States. So in South Dakota, there's still Minuteman nuclear missile sites that are like down in the ground that like once or twice a year they open up for you to go on a tour of. And then I know you mentioned the Pacific Northwest earlier. When we took a road trip through the Pacific Northwest, I read about a nuclear facility that they open like once a month, and I was just like, oh, how did I not put this on our itinerary? So I like it. You're going to do the Bolivar road trip. I'll do nuclear Cold War.
And that just brings me to something in Delaware related to the Cold War. They have these World War II observation towers across the 3 of them on the Delaware beach that you can visit, go up to the top. And that's where people would monitor to see if there were planes coming to literally drop bombs on Washington, D.C. Yeah. So,
all right. Maybe that's where I start off. That can be the East Coast start.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I remember, I also know this book well, and I remember after it, because this was before Lafayette was like everywhere. And you came to realize, well, Lafayette actually is everywhere. And when you notice the number of things that are named after Lafayette, suddenly you can't stop seeing them all across America.
Yeah, totally. And Lafayette has this trip where he comes back as an old man and like visits George Washington and stuff. So it's he sees America from the founding to the fledgling.
Yeah. That was beautiful. That's going to be on the back cover, I think.
Thank you. What did you bring to us, Kieran?
All right. Well, God, I'm debating whether to go. I'm going to go to the one that's of a similar ilk to yours, which is it's a book called Dead Presidents, an American adventure into the strange deaths and surprising afterlives of our nation's leaders. And it's by sometimes NPR reporter Brady Carlson. And again, it's a themed road trip book where he basically goes to look at the grave sites and the monuments and tell some of the stories behind the controversial deaths and when presidents' bones have been exhumed or they've changed their places. And for a presidential history interested person, this is like a great, rompy, funny sort of book, very similar to like a Sarah Vowell sort of approach.
I hadn't heard of this book, and that sounds right up my alley.
It's great. And I actually think both of these book two are excellent audiobook adventures. Usually Sarah Vowell does her own audiobooks. I imagine Brady probably does the same. And but I read it and I found it to be, it told me a lot of sort of forgotten histories about the president's bodies. And also, I love visiting presidential sites. I visited many of these grave sites, and it's really, it does get into a little bit of the philosophical debate of like, when presidents leave the presidency, are they supposed to return to becoming just a regular citizen, which was sort of the whole idea behind George Washington stepping back after 8 years, and everyone gave him credit for, this is why he's not a king. And so in death, should they be given more humble burials, or do we want, grand monuments? And also, at some point, after so many presidents, how many grand monuments are we going to create? That's sort of what's going on with the presidential libraries now.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of grand monuments. I can think of one current president who's going to build himself a hell of a monument.
And you know what? For those listeners who are excited about that, I hope that you can give us a report and a 5-star review on Apple. Cornhusker 55, we're looking at you.
I think the Obama Presidential Library really looks dated already. Like, it's brutal. It's brutal.
Also, it's been a while. Like, when's that thing getting going?
Yeah, well, they just released like what it's going to look like, and everyone was like, "Ooh,
not so hot,
not so hot."
Well, Obama's made a lot of questionable. Here's a little red meat for our red listeners. I think Obama's post presidency has been a little shaky.
Yeah.
All right, Rye. What is your second book?
So I'm going to jump to a novel. This is a novel I read a few years ago by the great Irish novelist Colm Tobin, who's best known for his novel Brooklyn, that became a movie that did very, very well a few years ago, but is a great novelist. He wrote a book in 2021 called The Magician, and this is about the life of Thomas Mann. And it follows Thomas from his childhood in Germany, to his escape to Switzerland, during the war, to his eventual exile into the United States, and then his eventual move back to Europe. And in all these places, the locations are really important, and he becomes a part of the community, and he meets with people who are prominent in these times. So it's like a super cool history of how the war affected one specific German who had to flee the country and go into exile, and then eventually come back to a new Europe. And it filled me with ideas and places that I want to go. And I'm actually coincidentally reading right now The Master.
He's holding it up, folks. I can confirm that he has purchased a copy.
Yeah, The Master, which is also by Tobin, and it's about Henry James, and that's why I texted you about Henry James.
I'm not a Henry James fan. I feel like I don't know, it just doesn't scratch my itch.
But he really, again, this is another book where he starts in New England, he goes to Europe, and God, I really wish I lived in this time where if you had an acquaintance, somebody who was like a friend of a friend, they would send a letter to that friend and be like, Bill's going to come hang out at your house for 3 weeks.
6 months.
Yeah. And be like, great. And then you would just go there. It's just, Airbnb really monetized everything. It should just be like, oh, honey, we got my third cousins coming that I mean,
that's also the time period, it's like these famous stories about Ben Franklin where like when you travel together, you would you'd sleep like 3 to a bed and you'd argue all night about whether the window should be open.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're yearning for those days?
That's still how I travel, Kieran, but
Can I just ask, where does the term the magician come from? Why is it called that?
I think after he did The Master, he needed another term for like somebody who's really, really.
All right, folks, we're starting to question whether he's read it. We can all question it together.
Thomas Mann was not a magician.
Okay, he's not a magician.
Not a magician.
Well, adding even more mystery to why it's called that.
Kieran, did you bring a second book for us today? It's not the
I'm
last
sort of
stop.
I'm actually cramming in a second and a third here,
Oh,
which
wow.
is, but they're by the same author. And the reason I think this is a great pair is because I've given these as gifts several times because they make a beautiful set to add to your bookshelf, and they are dense. So they've got to really, you got to know they're going to be interested in this. But it actually ties to the national park news up at the top. This is by a historian named Douglas Brinkley. Ryan and I have actually both met Douglas Brinkley many years ago at the American Museum of Natural History when we worked there together. And he wrote a first volume called Wilderness Warrior, Theodore Roosevelt and the Crusade for America, and followed that up and even like designed the cover to match Rightful Heritage, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and the Land for America by Douglas Brinkley. And these are, it's a great set. They're, again, I want to say they're like heavy history. And because I'm such a Ted head, a Theodore Roosevelt nut, I loved how deep this was a focus on conservation efforts. You know, Theodore Roosevelt was really the first president to push the limits of how much land could be preserved under executive power. And FDR so admired TR that he sort of took up that mantle and then famously created a lot of programs during the Depression to employ Americans to not only save our lands and protect our lands, but to make them accessible for tourism. So that, you know, a lot of the paths, the roads, the walls, the just basic infrastructure of parks really go back to FDR's vision, which go back further to Theodore Roosevelt's vision. And these two are just a fantastic primer. If you're a nature focused tourist in America, this tells you where all that great infrastructure and land came from.
Yeah, the Wilderness Warrior has been on my list forever. There are so many TR bios that I want to read.
Well, it's a great point because there's too many TR bios, and as far as I'm concerned, the Morris trilogy is like the key one, the key set, and then the Wilderness Warrior is one of the rare, very focused ones. I almost put River of Doubt on here, which is a great travel story about Theodore Roosevelt post-presidency mapping a river in South America, nearly dying several times. It's actually not unlike your own journey, Ryan. When he went to South America, he lost about half his weight as well. But I don't think he was on Ozempic. I think it was because there was no food available.
Well, that's actually a good pivot into my third and my final recommendation, and that is a book that we've talked about on the pod before, and I really want to get the author on, and that is Bolivar, American Liberator. And this is a 2013 biography by Maria Arana. And it covers, Bolivar's life. And, he's basically the George Washington of South America, and he frees many, many countries from Spanish rule. And he spends his entire life, you read facts like he covered the globe 3 times on horseback. In fact, we've talked about how they used to call him old Iron Butt because his butt was so hard from all the horse riding.
I think you've dated a couple of those, haven't you?
You made that same joke the last time. But so he travels around Venezuela and what is now Venezuela and Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia. And I've been to a lot of these spots and places where he fought battles and places where it's much like in the US where you'll be in any sort of random town in New England. It's like George Washington's horse, went to the bathroom here. And it's like, it's sort of like Bolivar's got that kind of a physical presence in Latin America, and you really feel this in this incredible biography that is also just really fun to read and really compelling, and like an adventure story and a war story. Bolivar was a womanizer, believe it or not. So
I don't believe it.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you kind of combined the Lafayette and the Boulevard, and that's I feel like if you put those two into Chat GPT and just say make me a road trip book based on
Yeah.
Boulevard, you're finally gonna publish your great
You
contribution to American letters.
you know the one place that I'm missing, and if Trump has his way, I might get to go there in the next couple years. And that's Caracas. That's so
Oh,
the one
sure. Oh,
I've been. Yeah,
you
I've been to where Bolivar died. I've been to where Bolivar lived, where he fought. But I've not been to where he was born because that is in Caracas, and it's not been. My mom says I
I'll
can't
just
go.
recommend don't take a boat there. Okay.
a small yacht with some of
I'm
my fishing buddies. Yeah.
I wasn't commenting on that. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just saying I think air travel might be a little quicker.
Well, yes. Kieran, did you bring a final recommendation?
I did. This one's fun because now you got fiction and I didn't manage to get fiction in, but this one is a photography book that I love. And it's called Thank You, Please Come Again: How Gas Stations Feed and Fuel the American South. Okay, stick with me here. This is by a photojournalist whose name is Kate Medley. And what she took as her subject were restaurants across the American South that are built into gas stations. And so she saw all manner of immigrant stories, sort of small business owners, people who decided to, open up a restaurant as sort of their expression of creativity and contribution to the economy. And what she comes away with is such a great snapshot of immigrant stories, of the way that so many Americans live, which are not in the huge cities with endless food options, but really these more kind of down home, off the beaten path places. They're very practical. They've got food, some of which looks great, some of which doesn't look so good. They've got decor that, isn't the latest fashion in fancy New York. But they are exactly the sorts of places that if you really want to get the flavor of a place, this is where you seek out to go. And so I just loved this like unvarnished, real look at the American South. And what an interesting hook to do it at gas stations.
Yeah, that's I mean, and I lived, as you talk about often, at my beach house at a little town called Dames Quarter, Maryland, and there was one gas station in the town, and that's where you went and you picked up your packages, and
Yep.
and you back then you rented videos. They had like 100 VHS tapes
Sure.
that you could,
Yeah.
So it was sort of the one place you could go every day to see what was happening and what the
And I
gossip
mean,
was.
I assume you would send the servants to go do that, but the point is the same.
I'd
which
walk
is that the
barefoot.
gas station, that's an essential place that everybody's going, and it can be a gathering place. And I will say for my own part, given that I am in a restaurant business here in Boston, I find it very inspiring to look at people who are trying to make it in restaurants and food, because there's something wonderful about bringing people together. And this, just being in the Northeast, you don't really see this type of restaurant. I'll also look, if you want to preview this book, we'll obviously include the links to all these books in the show notes. But this book, Kate Medley actually made available as a free PDF online. So before you buy the full bound lovely edition, you can actually browse it and check it out. I'll see if she still has it available.
Cool. Well, that sounds good. Well, Kieran, I think it's time for the last stop.
Last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan. Well, we're here in the last stop. This is the last section of the show, the final section of the show. That's why it's called the last stop. It's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the people section. Sometimes you see shirts and people just yelling people section, people section. That's what they're talking about this segment. And that's because it's a place where we come together as a community and we share, particularly Ryan and I share. We each bring one thing, and it could be anything. It could be a story, could be a joke, could be an article, could be a hot take, but it must check one box. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, post Thanksgiving, pre Christmas, pre New Year's, it's workaday now. So, I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
Yes, I do. Last weekend, I went out in Bogota to their version of the affordable art fair. Where everything is under 1,000,000 pesos, which is like $300. But what was really interesting about it, the event, is it's in this space that opened last year that I hadn't had a chance to go see. So Bogota has this issue where the population exploded. It's a very dense city. There's not a lot of public space. And so the city started to build these vertical parks, which are basically skyscrapers that are very open and have a ton of different community activities in them. So this one is, I think it's like 11 stories. And you can, obviously there's an elevator, but you can walk basically around the outside. So it has a very outside feel. And it's got a gym that's open to the public. It's got swimming pool that's open to the public. There are multiple places for people to sit and relax and enjoy the weather. There's a cool rooftop. There are restaurants. There's a public library, performance space, and then they have events like this where they turned it all in, to an art gallery for 48 hours. So I just think it's such a cool way to say, okay, we have really limited space as a city, but we want to have, public space available. And how do we do that if we can't build like a huge park? And it's like, okay, let's build basically a park, but build it up into the sky.
Oh, really neat. Wow.
Yeah, so super cool. And there's a couple other ones that are opening in the next couple years, but this is sort of the flagship. And yeah, I thought it was super, super cool, super impressive.
You got to build up.
Got to build up. Did you bring a last stop for us this week?
I did, of course. I'm a good student. I do my homework. I want to talk. You mentioned factory tours before. I love factory tours. I think on the last Detroit focused episode, I talked about visiting the Ford truck factory tour, which is like it's such an A+ place to go. It's so interesting. Love seeing companies that actually make things and open the doors. And there's a company here that has a real international story along with it. It's a chocolate company called Taza Chocolate, Taza. And they've got a line that they say gritty is pretty, because their whole thing is that their chocolate's like a little grittier because it's made using carved stones, which is like a real Mexican specialty. The founder went to Mexico, learned how to carve these stones, and brought the stones that crush the cacao nibs back to Somerville, Massachusetts, and they make these great chocolate bars. They can also make, they sell these discs that you can make Mexican hot chocolate, which you probably know about, Ryan. Which is a really cool, you have to like whisk it heavily, and it's real chocolate that's melted. It's really delicious. And, it was super rainy here. And this is actually featured in Secret Boston. So I had been on this tour before, but it's a great little operation. It's actually a sizable business. They ship to apparently 50 states internationally. So you might be able to find Taza chocolate near you. But the cool thing about it is, as a tourist attraction, obviously they do the cool thing of like letting you try all the different chocolates and flavors and whatever. But you also get to taste the nibs, the cacao nibs that are like the basis for the chocolate before milk is added, before sugar is added. And you realize how bitter that part of the chocolate is. And so that's when you have, completely 100% cacao chocolate. It's really not at all what you grow up thinking of as chocolate.
Well, I'm in a different space than you, so I eat my cacao nibs quite a bit. But
is that a popular Colombian?
You get cacao nibs in your salads and your.
I had no idea. That's so interesting to me. Really, in your
salads?
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds really good. I like that.
It's good fiber.
Interesting. How else do they use it? Anywhere else you get them?
In smoothies and in those yogurt bowls.
This could be a Clover innovation here in the Boston market. Get our nibs from Taza. I'll just include one of the reasons I like factory tours is because you really learn like all this little insider stuff that you'd never learn if you didn't have a chocolate factory or a car factory, whatever. And my favorite thing about it was they have these big pipes all over the factory where chocolate flows through. And all of the pipes are heated. Because if the chocolate gets too cold, it solidifies, and then they just have solid chocolate in the pipes. And they said every once in a while, an employee accidentally shuts off the heated pipes, and literally, hundreds, I mean, maybe 100, I think it's about 100 feet of piping becomes solid chocolate. And it takes 5 full hours for that to heat up and melt back down. And the chocolate is fine and usable, but like the whole factory floor is just sitting there twiddling their thumbs.
That's like the opposite of that famous I Love Lucy sketch.
That's funny. And it did make me look up other factory tours around New England that I want to visit. And it turns out Ben and Jerry's has a factory tour. So I'm thinking I might try to get up to Stowe, Vermont and visit that sometime soon.
Well, I think you should reach out to old Frank Clegg and see if his leather shop will give you a good tour.
That's the handbag that, or the arm bag, the tote bag that Ryan is so passionate about carrying heavy books on.
Messenger bag.
Messenger bag. Thank you. Well, it looks exactly like the tote bag I get from NPR for free, but whatever. Now, Ryan, next episode I'm extremely excited about because it will be the one episode a year that we don't talk outwardly about travel. We still touch on travel, of course, because it's you and me, but it's the famed Christmas Spectacular.
Yes, it is the episode that you and I look forward to more than our audience every year. And
I've had a couple people reach out and say how much they enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, go to the reviews, leave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you like about it. Heck, you still have time. If you go and comment now, we'll incorporate what you say directly into this year's Christmas Spectacular.
Well, I am super excited about the song I'm bringing this year. It's going to blow you away. And until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken. Is it from one of the new albums I read about? Is it a Pentatonix acapella version of Mary Did You Know?
It might be an original.